Hi, everyone. I'm citizen spokeswoman Ruth Wasserman Lande. This is the daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's office. We're live on YouTube, Instagram, and X. Please begin submitting questions in the chat. Our briefings are now available shortly after broadcast as podcast episodes. Search for the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's office on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and all major podcast platforms. Today, I remind you, is day 271 of the October 7th war. Iran is trying to destroy Jordan. That's right. The Arab kingdom next to Israel is in Tehran's crosshairs because Iran doesn't only seek to destroy the Jewish state. The mullahs have been trying and succeeding to take over the entire region, establish an Iranian Islamic empire, leaving behind a bloody trail of failed states and launchpads for even more Iranian terror. Iran has already destabilized 4 Arab countries: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Devastated cities, hundreds of thousands dead, millions of refugees. Iran's theocratic regime pays for and trains the brutal proxy armies behind the barbaric violence in those countries. Jordan is Iran's next victim, and this has been happening for some years now. Iran has been pumping arms into Jordan and smuggling thousands of weapons, from rifles and pistols to sophisticated explosives, to Iran's Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas agents in the West Bank. The drive-by shootings and terrorist bombs meant to maim and murder people in Israel are only part of Iran's evil plan. Because for Iran, using spies and criminals to sneak weapons through Jordan's border is the goal, a perfect way to undermine and collapse Jordan's own government, just like in the failed states surrounding it. Last year, Jordan prosecuted a member of its own parliament, caught smuggling over 200 guns into Israel. Last month, an Amman neighborhood was evacuated completely as Jordanian security forces detonated an explosive stockpile they had found there. And some of the guns are for use inside Jordan against the Hashemite regime. Jordanian sources have long complained of foreign-backed militants sneaking in with rocket launchers and explosives. They have said they are used to carry out acts of sabotage against them. This May, Jordan's king even called out the smuggling publicly for the very first time in front of some of the leaders complicit with Iran. We should confront armed militant groups who commit crimes, especially smuggling drugs and arms, which is what Jordan has been thwarting for years, he said. Jordan's royal family has always faced challenges ruling its Palestinian majority population. Now, Jordan also houses over 500,000 Syrian refugees. And despite major supplies of water from Israel, Jordan is always thirsty. It is now low-hanging fruit for Iran. Jordan is, but that is not Iran's only target. Iran has been causing the same chaos across the entire Arab world. Egypt, for example, expelled the Iranian ambassadors multiple times over the years on charges of espionage. Bahrain cut ties with Iran and blamed them for riots so bad that Saudi troops had to help restore order. And Saudi Arabia has been directly attacked by drones and missiles from Iran's Yemeni proxies, the Houthis. It's no coincidence that most of those countries also have relations with Israel. In Iran's April 2024 aerial attack on Israel, Iran's proxies across the Middle East joined in the attack, but many of the Arab countries targeted by Iran joined in Israel's defense. If Jordan falls, Iran will have yet another front against Israel and against the Arab states standing against it, and with Israel. Also, if Jordan falls, Iran will have territorial continuity, as it practically already owns large parts of Iraq too. We all know that on October 7th, Iran proxy Hamas declared war on Israel. barbarically raping and murdering festival goers and Israeli families in their own homes in the south of Israel. On October 8th, Iran proxy Hezbollah joined that war with 5,000 rockets, missiles, and drone attacks across Israel's north, forcing 60,000 to flee their homes. But the current war of the Islamic Republic of Iran against Israel is only one part of its bloody campaign to take over the region and, in fact, the entire world. Yes, I know. It sounds a little bit like a Hollywood production, but unfortunately, it is what it is. The mullah's extreme Shiite ideology dictates that they must rule a worldwide Shiite caliphate, which includes taking over the US, Europe, Canada, Australia, and the rest of the non-Islamic world, as well as the Sunni Arab world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, friends, let's take some questions from our audience watching live on various social media platforms. Please continue to submit questions.
Our first question comes from Ed Hughes on X. Can Israel win over the minds of Gazans and motivate the population to realize Hamas is no longer the answer? How can Israel offer Gazans a way toward prosperity and peace?
So thank you for that wonderful question. I think that the first and foremost issue is to get rid of the extreme factors within the Gaza Strip. When we have extreme factors like, for example, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and so on, they basically brainwash the population. They take away the freedoms of the population. They educate, they indoctrinate the population. And therefore, as long as they're there, Israel cannot instill any kind of other sentiments. And by the way, not only Israel, but the West cannot instill any good emotions or sentiments in the hearts of the population. So the first and foremost thing that needs to be done is to get rid of the Islamic extreme Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and so on in the Gaza Strip. The second thing and the most important thing is the education. Re-educating in a normal, inclusive, human way the actual people, teaching them sciences, teaching them humanities, teaching them about life, not about death. And in fact, instilling values that we also hold dear in the West, not only death and killing and anti-Semitic and anti-West sentiments. This is what can be done, but this is something that will take a long time.
Our next question is from Andrea on YouTube Live. If Jordan and Israel are on the same side, then why doesn't Jordan support Israel openly?
Brilliant question. Thank you for asking that. So this brings me to the duality of the policies of Arab countries, and it's correct for Jordan and for Egypt. So what happens is they have populations that are inherently antagonistic to Israel, historically, traditionally, and their educational systems only enforce that. They enhance that. In fact, the educational systems are anti-Semitic and are anti-Israeli and sometimes even anti-West in Egypt and in Jordan. By the way, in Jordan, it's even worse. Why is that so? Because they don't want to confront the masses, the anti-Israel masses, and even have a kind of a small threat that they will come up against them because the population is known to be anti-Israeli and may revolt against the regime. And therefore, out of fear, what those regimes do, they feed the hatred, which is a very dangerous game. This is the duality of the policy both of Egypt and of Jordan. They educate the masses against Israel, yet they sign peace treaties with Israel. By the way, it's correct with the Palestinians as well. They sort of speak about brotherly love and happiness and brotherhood in general with the Palestinians on the one hand, but in fact, have you seen one country allowing those Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to have refuge within Egypt or within Jordan? No. There's no love lost for the Palestinians, certainly not for Hamas, but they speak openly about the brotherly love towards the Palestinian people. Again, sort of in a way to appease the masses. And this is again the duality, the speaking in one tone, acting in a different tone. In my humble opinion, it is time to put an end to this and to demand that the educational systems be changed once and for all, for the good of the West, of the regimes in those countries, and for the people themselves. What is the purpose of teaching and indoctrinating the population to hate? At the end of the day, it will definitely turn against you. And is it possible? Yes, it is. One example is the United Arab Emirates, which changed its entire educational system very recently, in recent years. And those teachers that did not comply with the change were changed themselves. And it's working. Has it completely changed the entire mindset? Not yet, because this takes time. But it has done the beginning steps, and this is what is important.
Our next question comes from YouTube Live. How is Hamas actually being resupplied with ammunition during this time?
Thank you for that question. And this is a very, very big issue. One, you know that there have been found many tunnels, tens of tunnels in the Rafah crossing from the Gaza Strip, the Gaza side, to the Egyptian side of Rafah. So what we actually found out vis-a-vis that dual policy that I spoke of before is that in fact the Egyptians had allowed, whether willingly or by turning a blind eye, for the Hamas to continue to smuggle weapons, dual use parts of weapons, and so on into the Gaza Strip. This is until the IDF, of course, went into Rafah, which was the exact reason why we had to take over Rafah. We needed to close that, let's say, oxygen line of smuggling of weapons. This is first and foremost. Second of all, there are all those NGOs, for example, like UNRWA, which is a UN body funded by the West, by European countries, by the United States of America, by other countries in the West. And basically, it doesn't only teach the children of Gaza and basically allow for education, which is what it's supposed to do, and take care of so-called refugees, although there are no Palestinian refugees, because this was a Palestinian governed piece of land since 2006. So what in fact is happening? What is happening is that these bodies receive money. They receive money from Qatar, from the UN, from the West, and they give that money to the Hamas, which aids their smuggling attempts. And this is exactly what needed to be stopped, that line of oxygen, either from Egypt or from other sources. And by the way, they had a lot of weapons still in the underground. I'm talking about such a significant underground storage, which is insane to even comprehend, to even imagine. And slowly but surely, the IDF is destroying those storages and closing that oxygen line, slowly but surely ending the supply.
Our next question comes from Cindy on Instagram Live. I've seen a lot of coverage about the protests happening about the topic of compulsory draft of ultra-Orthodox Jewish men. What do you think about this, and how is it affecting Israel?
So first of all, I'm a believing Jew. I believe in God very strongly, and I think that praying to God has kept the Jewish people throughout the centuries, despite all the pogroms and the hardships and the challenges that the Jewish peoplehood has truly gone through. That's first and foremost. Having said that, it is a compulsory and obligatory military service for women and for men. And the fact that a huge number of ultra-Orthodox, by the way, Arab Israelis also, excluding the Druze, but other Arab Israelis, they can volunteer, but they are not obligated to serve in the army. they and the ultra-Orthodox, the fact that they don't go into the army is unequal in the sense that a mother of a secular Jewish boy of 18 knows that he will go to combat, most probably, whereas an ultra-Orthodox one does not. Now, if he is a very amazing, unbelievable scholar of Jewish thought and the written word, wonderful. I think it is very important to have that core of Jewish scholars continuing our tradition, because this is a part and parcel of our survival throughout the century. I truly believe that. They truly believe that. And that's part of the inherent tradition of this country and our religion. But not all of them. Not inherently every single ultra-Orthodox child does not go into the military because there is a need. And that's where I put the red line.
Our last question today comes from Rachel on Instagram Live. If the time comes to it, will Israel be ready to fight on multiple fronts if Iran sends all of its proxies into a joint attack on Israel?
Rachel, you know, some things are unprecedented. The challenges that Israel faces are huge, and we certainly are being put to the test. However, this is an existential war. It's not a willing exercise that the Israeli army or the people are partaking in, but this is something that our enemies are determining for us. And we will fight, and we will win with God's help and with the very brave Israeli soldiers. I believe that deeply. Are we prepared to fight on several fronts? First of all, we are doing it already. We are already fighting in the West Bank. We are fighting in the Gaza Strip. There's almost a full-blown war in the north. Many people are being displaced. The Hezbollah is sending rockets and missiles towards the Israeli population. So we are fighting on several fronts, not to mention the Shiite militias from Iraq and from Yemen. But can we take more? We don't want to take more. We don't want to partake in war. But if we have to, absolutely we will. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope that you continue to be with us tomorrow as well at 3 p.m. as always.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.